provide some really interesting lessons, and I'll share some of those with you as well. But you're looking at one of the few people that never graduated the 8th grade, and then later in life went on to get a master's in finance. And I share some of those examples with you because I want you to understand I've lived on both sides of the tracks in every way you can imagine. And I think that's important right now because we need champions for the American dream. We need people who can get out and share a message that inspires other folks, but particularly the rising generation. We have to be able to inspire the rising generation and bring them into this cause and reinforce their belief that this is a land of opportunity, because that very idea is under a constant assault. And it concerns me deeply. But I've only been involved in politics for a few years. I've never held elective office, which actually I think is probably my greatest selling point. But the political operatives will tell you that only these geniuses who've held elective office before can actually handle themselves. Right, and it's not true. History has never proven that's the case. But I've been involved in politics for a few years, and the reason I got involved is I was a financial planner. I walked away from my book of business to run for governor, and our family's put a lot on the line to do this. I hope you understand. This costs our family a lot. Every day that I'm out here, our savings account goes down every single day. So this isn't some, fun experiment for me and my family. I'm not some billionaire that can just, not work, and we have a mortgage to pay. We have bills just like everyone else. And I think that perspective is very needed right now because we have a government that's grown so far away from the people. But I got pulled into politics because I had some clients that invited me to attend a Republican function, and I'm sure some of you share this experience, but I went to a Republican meeting for the first time a few years ago, and I was pretty horrified with what I saw. It was, the only impression I can leave with you is I showed up, and by the end of it, I thought, these are the frontline soldiers against socialism in America today? I thought, wow, we're going to get wiped out. That's all, and it was very depressing for me, and I couldn't sit back and do nothing. It just felt wrong to do nothing. And so me and a friend of mine at the time founded an organization to breathe new life into the I live in Eagle, so it was the Ada County Republican Party, which being in Ada County today, obviously your Republican Party, and we found an organization. I don't know if we get credit for creativity, but it was Make Ada Great Again. Maybe not original, but it worked. And here was the whole idea. Can we recruit everyday non-political people to run for party positions to actually bring the spirit of conservatism into the party? And we recruited 105 people to run for those positions. 90 of them won. And so you got to realize, most of us, and this is how I met Laurel and Sandy and a lot of great other people, was through that effort. And we were unknowns in the political realm. People didn't know who the heck we were. And they dismissed us and discounted us the whole time. And then overnight, we held immense voting power, and I won a series of elections to precinct committeemen, and then I was also elected as the Region 4 chairman, which put me on the Idaho State Republican Party Executive Board. And from that, I had the opportunity, I was a delegate for Donald Trump at the Republican National Convention. I've even had the opportunity to go to Mar-a-Lago to promote term limits on Congress, which is long overdue. And I've just found again and again, whether it was involvement in the party, whether it was starting the Citizens Committee for election integrity and the incredible things that we accomplished as private citizens to address election integrity, whether it was getting critical race theory banned in public schools. You have to understand, as a private citizen, I introduced the bill to ban critical race theory in public schools in Idaho, in the Idaho House Education Committee. Yeah, no, thank you, I appreciate that. And look, it got watered down. We have a lot more work to do there, but it still, I think, showed to a lot of people that private citizens can do these things. We don't have to sit back and wait for the professional politicians to somehow parent us and take care of us, because that hasn't worked for us at all. It's not worked a bit. And it gives me great hope, because people are waking up. I hope you all will stop at woke. Don't go to woke, but we need to wake up, right, to the things that are going on in this country. And when we apply ourselves, we can accomplish incredible things. And so with each of these successes that we've had, it finally got to a point where I started having people tell me, well, Ed, why don't we bring this same spirit of everyday Idahoans, private citizens, let's bring it to the top of the ticket. If there was one position where we could make incredibly foundational changes to the state of Idaho and change our state's direction and actually elevate Idaho to be in a position where we can lead America instead of a swing state leading America. Think about that. Ron DeSantis of Florida is in a swing state, and yet that's some of the most conservative leadership we have today. And yet here we are in Idaho, Republican trifecta, which means Republicans practically run everything. We have a Republican trifecta. We have a supermajority in both houses, the House and Senate in our legislature. And yet the most basic things that Republicans believe in, we had a special session to prohibit corporate coercion and forced, medical treatments and the like. And they had a special session, and what did they accomplish? Nothing. Right. Supermajority Republican legislature didn't accomplish a thing. Literally, our majority is so great in Idaho that if they wanted to amend the state constitution tomorrow, they could accomplish it. Think about that. That's pretty incredible. They could amend the state constitution tomorrow, yet we can't get some of the most basic things done that a swing state gets done. That's a betrayal. I think we've been betrayed in a lot of ways. And we looked at the environment. We said, well, what does this look like to run a statewide effort of everyday citizens and win? And when we started looking at things, I have to tell you, it was really surprising. Did you know our last governor, I think I misquoted last night, he was elected in the Republican primary, our current governor, was elected in the primary with less than 73,000 votes. Think about that. There's 1.9 million people in the state of Idaho, 1.3 million adults, and with less than 73,000 votes, this is the administration that rules over the state. A part of me finds that kind of depressing. There's another part of me that realizes there's actually a lot of opportunity in that. And so this was the question. Can we organize and get 100,000 people, 100,000 patriots, people who love their country and would zealously defend it, to show up on May 17th of this year and vote for a course correction, a radical change? And, well, I think the answer is clear. We thought, yeah, we think there's 100,000 people in Idaho who actually love American values and love family values. I believe that. I need less than 1 out of 10 adults in the state of Idaho to vote for me, and I would be your next governor. That's doable. But it's not about me. Ed Humphreys represents a small part of this movement. It's our time now. And that's what this effort has been. And we have had from day one, please understand how miraculous this is. From day one, we have had every reason to fail, yet we continue to succeed. There's never been some high-powered political endorsement. I've never had any super PAC or special interest group or anything else come in to inject money into this and resources and prop me up. There's never been some media group that's molded me into some conservative celebrity. It's all just us. We continue to succeed. And I look at some of my opponents who've had every single reason to succeed, yet continue to flounder. That's incredible. This team is the grittiest darn bunch of people I've ever met. I'm very proud to be associated with them. I think there's a lot to be proud of for this effort. So there's some of them in the room tonight. I hope you'll get to know them, because these are the times that require everybody to jump in. If you're looking to me and you're wondering, well, what's Ed Humphreys going to do about X or Y? We're going to talk about my vision of how I think we combat this. I'll tell you, more often than not, the answer to the question is, what are you going to do? Because I'm not going to get any high-powered endorsements. I represent a complete and total disruption to the status quo. And it doesn't matter whether they're liberal Republicans or conservative Republicans. Professional politicians are professional politicians, okay? They don't like complete outsiders, free radicals coming into an environment that they have a measure of control over. They don't like that disruptive attitude. They don't like somebody coming in and questioning everything. This is the way we do things. We like it to stay that way. And just remember, the status quo exists because there's a lot of people who benefit from it. The only way to disrupt it is a movement amongst the people. So that'll be the question of this election. This is how I stepped into this race. And I think my candidacy actually offers a model for positive change that has always worked for America. We've forgotten our roots, folks. It's time. I'm not educating anyone on this. You all know it. But we have to remind ourselves what the story of America is, what our heritage is. It's under assault right now. In fact, I will tell you, it's getting crazier. I'll share some examples with you that I think you'll find quite surprising. But this whole beautiful experiment that changed the world was, in this nation, it was founded by young patriots with a bold vision. And I know when we opened our textbooks, we saw, right, the founding fathers. They were these learned men, right, with this flowing white hair. Don't forget they were wearing powdered wigs, right? Thomas Jefferson was 33 years old when he authored the Declaration of Independence, which I encourage everyone, everywhere I go. If you've not read the Declaration of Independence in the last few years, take some time tonight. Go and read it. It's profound. Our family, we consider it to be sacred. It's profound what is said in there. And think of what was sacrificed for it. Everything. These people put everything on the line for that vision, what they believed in. 19 of the signers of that sacred document were in their 20s and 30s. Folks, this country, it had that revolutionary spirit, had that young spirit, that eternal optimism that we can do things better. And as long as we have people that will embrace timeless principles, that understand natural law, right, which the Declaration, it talks about natural law, the laws of nature, and nature's God, right? There are timeless principles that are eternal, and it matters not who leverages them or honors them. As long as you honor those timeless principles, a natural consequence will result from that. It's just like, when you have a society that embraces drugs and drug culture, you see, mass insanity, right? When you embrace moderation and temperance and sobriety and family values, you have incredible, safe communities. These principles, they hold true, they always have. That's going to be the question here, is can we elect somebody who has the energy to disrupt the status quo and also honor these principles that will deliver up consequences that are known to us. That is the model for positive change in America today. It works now. I mentioned Florida earlier. Did you know Ron DeSantis is the youngest governor in the United States of America today? This model has worked for our country. We've forgotten it. We've gotten addicted to this idea you have to elect these dinosaurs. Hey, you said it, not me. You know, these politicians with these long resumes and all these committee assignments and this, that, and the other. How's it working for you? You wouldn't be here if it was. It's not working. Now you're really going to get us in trouble tonight. No, I think my success is going to be determined by my ability to surround myself with wise counsel. You have the opportunity to meet with some of those people who counsel me. I need it. I don't have all the answers. I'm not going, and I never will. But it takes energy to get things done. And so when we can marry those two things, that wisdom and that energy, you can accomplish incredible, incredible things. And one of the things I pride myself on is I have a knack to find people who can offer me wise counsel, people whose hearts are in the right place. Not political operative types that have an agenda they want to enact. You'll find on my team, there are no political operatives. I have no lobbyists on the team. There's no one with special interest groups. There's no one, my campaign manager is former law enforcement, right? My chief of staff, Laurel's a nurse practitioner, and also, believe it or not, former law enforcement. You go down, my videographer tonight, former law enforcement. Are you seeing a trend there? Isn't that interesting? They know, law enforcement. Well, the cops know. They've spent a lifetime having to dig up the truth. And I tell you right now, call your friends who were cops. Ask them what they think about what's going on in our country right now. Nobody is more disturbed. Nobody. That should tell you something. These are individuals who have a heart set on service, who have a heart on protecting our communities. They have a natural instinct to protect our communities. Look how involved they're getting right now. They know. They can't. It's not going to be enough for them to work the night shift. It's not going to be enough to just walk their beat. They have to get involved in this effort as well. And so I'm very proud of that. And they're not all former law enforcement. I just mentioned some examples of people who are here tonight because I hope you find it interesting. I don't have a general political consultant. I don't have a media group that tells me how to craft my messaging. We don't do polling to figure out, what I believe in. I'm just out here sharing with you what I believe. And the best part about running for governor is I get to say whatever the heck I want. And if you don't like it, then don't vote for me. But it's different. And one of my favorite things at these events is I'll have people come up and they'll say, I don't agree with everything that you said, but I like that you just say what you believe. That's all we want. We just want people who are going to be real with us. And I hope that you'll see that's really the spirit of it. And I think this is a model that can be incredible change. We can start. If we can execute on this, we can show the rest of the country the way there's a path back to sanity. Can you imagine how inspiring that would be? To say, hey, look what Idaho just did. Look at this. This campaign's totally funded by everyday Idahoans. I encourage you, go through the campaign finance reports. There's no super PACs. There's no special interest groups. Everyday Idahoans funded the whole thing. Everyday Idahoans run the whole thing. This is historic. You have an opportunity to be a part of making history. And could you imagine the waves we would make across this country? I think it would be a beautiful thing, but imagine how much hope it would give the rest of the country. Imagine what people would say. Think of the amount of hope we had across the country looking at Ed Durr in New Jersey, beat the pro tem of the Senate, a truck driver. So just so you know, I have a Class A CDL, if that's important to you. Isn't that incredible, though? Guy didn't raise much money, was not a political type. How much, doesn't that give you hope? Hope for America? Look at J.D. Vance running in Ohio, the author of Hillbilly Elegy. You want to talk about coming from nothing? It's inspiring. We got to seize on that. We got to give that back. And what will happen is we will begin to capture the rising generation again. We lost them, but we only have ourselves to blame. I mean, if the Republican Party existed as it does today, when a lot of you were growing up, why would you want to be a part of this? It's just rampant crony corporatism, right? Just more of the same, right? More of the same. Young people aren't interested in that. They're seeking after that hope, and in a time where mental illness amongst the youth is going through the roof, I think it's incumbent upon all of us to give them that hope. And so how incredible to have someone with a young face out there preaching this message, right? And it's something that I find particularly interesting is the people that I'm able to message to that typically wouldn't be open to hearing a conservative message. That's how we grow the party. And I've proven that I can do that. We're going to continue to do that. So let me share with you a few points of the platform, how I imagine that we will begin to fix things here in Idaho, and then we'll get to your questions. The first one, and I'll tell you, it doesn't necessarily affect everyone in this room directly, but indirectly, it affects everyone in this room. And if you don't make changes in education, every other change that we accomplish will later be undone if we don't address education. Let me tell you how we do it. We have to rid ourselves of this idea that education has to be a one-size-fits-all model. What we need to embrace is the free exchange of ideas, and we need to give parents more educational options and allow their tax dollars to follow their kids to whatever school they choose. Idaho needs school choice. That is going to be a game changer for this state. And it doesn't matter whether or not you have kids or grandkids in the education system. It doesn't matter. You have to understand that when you teach young people to hate our country, they're not going to take good care of it. We have to show there's a different way, but more importantly, and I just touched on the mental health crisis amongst youth, we bear the blame for this. Think of it. Everyone in this room learns differently, believes differently, yet we've created a system for our young people where every aspect of their thinking and their performance is standardized. They go through a process in which they must conform to all these different metrics, and then they come out the other end, or they're supposed to. The whole goal of the program is they come out the end as a uniform and consistent product. Is it any surprise to you why young people are losing their minds right now? It shouldn't surprise any of you. This is not education. I don't know how we got addicted to this notion of this one-size-fits-all assembly line model. That's not education. But we've grown addicted to it. We have to disrupt that. Folks, it's okay if people believe differently. It's okay if people learn differently. I think nothing would be more beautiful than for me and my family to have the opportunity to send our kids to a school that teaches them that God created the earth and put man and woman on it. It's none of your business if that's what Holly and I want to teach our kids. It's none of my business if you want to send your kids to a school that teaches them differently. That's your business. And we shouldn't allow the politicians to participate in that. This would be a game changer in Idaho for countless reasons, but once we start making these changes, you'll see some of this insanity start to go away. And I'm not attacking the teachers. Look, I have teachers in my family. We all have teachers as friends and family. I'm sure there's a few in the room tonight. It's not about the teachers. Talk to the teachers. Ask them what's been going on, and they'll tell you they're not allowed to teach anymore. All they're allowed to do is go through prescribed lesson plans now. That's not teaching. How many of you know teachers that have lost all enthusiasm and love for the profession? That should break your heart. It's because we chain them, we restrict them. I will tell you, not only will school choice allow teachers to teach the things that they're passionate about, and they can infuse that passion into the kids, but under school choice, teachers would make more money than under any other system. And I'm happy to go into that if you guys find that important to talk about tonight and want to ask questions around that. The school choice is what's best for the teachers, it's what's best for the families, for the students. I'll tell you who it's not best for. It's not best for special interest groups like the Idaho Education Association that will fight it with all the political capital they can muster. Because some of these groups, you got to realize, education, you all heard of the military-industrial complex, but let me tell you, there is an educational industrial complex today. Education is big money now. They don't want these ideas getting out there. They will fight it. The second thing that I think would be game-changing for the state is how we handle the budget, which is the tax code and who we give the money to. And I have a really powerful tax plan that would be incredible for everyone in this room and would also allow us to stop funding our own destruction. And let me explain to you what I mean when I say that. And I'll give you some examples, but just so you know, we are funding our own destruction with our tax dollars. Political operatives have inserted themselves in the political system, and they funnel our tax dollars to anti-American causes and anti-American activists. Let me give you a perfect example. Here's where a lot of your tax dollars go. Boise State University, we're not far from there right now. BSU has a racial inventory quiz that asks students, which event led to the rise of the idea of white supremacy? And according to BSU, the answer is the Declaration of Independence. Think about that. The whole legacy and heritage of this country is under that kind of an assault. You foot the bill. Everyone in here foots the bill to promote Planned Parenthood and to send teenage girls to Planned Parenthood through our public health districts, through the Idaho Department of Health and Welfare. Everybody in here pays to teach middle schoolers and high schoolers gender fluidity, that there are infinite genders, and anybody who says there's only man and woman is just promoting hate speech. You pay. You are funding your own destruction. I believe it would be very powerful to have a finance guy at the top of the ticket as governor. Well, and you understand, thank you. If in politics, if you want the truth, then follow the money. Follow the money. I've done that. I've read thousands of fiscal and budgetary reports in our state government. I know exactly what's going on and how to disrupt it. And the governor has immense authority over the state's budget. We have, our governor, you'll never hear it being used, our governor has line item veto power. You could just take, and so I've committed as governor on day one, I would ask that the budget for every agency in the state government be on my desk. Bring me every budget, bring me a box of red pens. We're going to start cutting the pork out of it. The governor can do that. The governor oversees the Division of Financial Management, which crafts the budget recommendations for every governmental body that largely the legislature passes into law. The governor is the one crafting the budget. Nothing happens in government unless there's a funding mechanism. You want to stop funding abortion activists? You want to stop funding anti-American activists? Then have a governor who will stop funding them. It is that simple. That's what I've committed to doing. And when we can shrink the government in that way and actually focus the government on necessary and reasonable services, like who here would like maybe some roads widened, for crying out loud, maybe some more on and off ramps to get on the freeway, which should have happened like maybe 10 years ago? Holy smokes, just so you know, 10% of the budget even goes to those projects. 5% of the budget goes for public safety and corrections. Our prisons are completely overflowing. We have I believe 800 inmates in Eagle Pass, Texas, because we can't house them in Idaho. Because so much of our budget goes to welfare programs, So much of our budget goes to woke projects and woke agencies and woke trainings for state employees and the like. So we're going to shrink government and provide better, necessary, and reasonable services. Here's how you do that. First, and it's a game changer, we're going to abolish the state income tax entirely and put thousands of dollars more in your pocket every year. This would absolutely juice our economy in the state of Idaho. And I know a lot of people, they hear that, and I don't know if it's because they don't love their paycheck enough or what, but they say, oh, but Ed, how's government going to fund itself? Folks, trust me, there's so many ways the government gets your money. Sales taxes and use taxes and the like, property taxes for your local governments. There's a lot of other sources. So the income tax brings in about a little bit over $2 billion a year. The total budget's about $14 billion a year. But what eliminating the income tax would do is juice our economy. You would see increased economic activity, more people with more money in their pockets spending that money. Businesses would have better revenues. You would see real wage growth in this state. We would begin to elevate Idaho's economy to get us on a footing where we can begin the process, and it is a process, of divorcing Idaho from the federal grant money that subjugates Idaho agencies to federal bureaucracies. Thank you. I don't know if you guys heard my latest radio ad. I think I'm kind of funny, but tell me if you heard of it. You got to realize, Biden's bureaucrats in D.C., they don't know what bathroom to use. We don't want them educating children in Idaho. And I couldn't believe the radio let me put that on the ad. So we're getting, people are driving down the road and the reaction I get is, what? Did he just say that? Sometimes the truth ought to have its day. We don't want the money. We don't need the money. In fact, there is one part of our state government we can immediately divorce ourselves from the federal government, and it is education. 10 to 15% of the budget comes from the feds for education in the state. Stop. We want no money that comes with any strings attached. Sure, there are block grants and the like, but most of it comes with strings attached. We can't have that. We cannot continue to build a system that the feds want us to build. It's not worked anywhere else. We're not going to suddenly be the exception to the rule, and it's going to work here in Idaho. But it will allow us to reassert this whole notion of state sovereignty, that we can rule ourselves. Start the process of divorcing ourselves from the federal money. I'm advocating for a taxpayer bill of rights. You can read about this on the website. All my position papers are on the website. You can read about what I'm advocating for yourselves, how we consolidate elections, how we need a governor who's actually going to enforce the Constitution. You're not even going to believe this, but you'll fact check me and you're going to be amazed. Literally, 35% of your tax bill has been deemed by the highest court in this land, the Idaho State Supreme Court, the highest authority, has been deemed unconstitutional. 35% of your property tax bill is unconstitutional. It's the supplemental levies for the schools. It's totally unconstitutional. There's been no challenge to that. That's the last word on the matter. Yet you tell me what happens if you try and pay 35% less of your property taxes. You tell me what happens. Yeah, somebody will come knocking on the door. Folks, we don't even celebrate the rule of law anymore. The whole idea that we ought to be governed by laws rather than the dictates of man. There's the law. It's as clear as day. It's the Constitution. It's unconstitutional, yet here we are. So I want you to think about that. That's how crazy things are here in Idaho. So we need a governor who's going to start upholding the Constitution, right? What a novel concept, I know. But my property tax plan goes much further than just making sure the taxing districts actually honor the state constitution. We have a real problem right now with property taxes. They are unpredictable and they're skyrocketing. I'm a financial planner and I'm very sensitive to the needs of folks on a fixed income. Think about it, especially for senior citizens who are retired. Imagine the situation that they're in today. They're on a fixed income. You combine that with the Biden economy, with the stock market dropping like a rock, inflation going through the roof, and then they don't know what their property tax bill is going to be, and it's skyrocketing. And they've lived, many of them, in the same home for decades. They're getting priced out of their own homes. So I have to ask, is it right for somebody in this state to buy a home and other people choose to move in around them, and our government essentially says, hey, you got to pay for all that infrastructure so people can move in around you? Growth should pay for itself. And because I'm not funded by special interest groups and big-time developers and the like, I get to actually have a real plan to address property taxes. The politicians will never touch this because there's the property taxes as it is benefits a certain group of people. You have to understand, very much so. But I'm not beholden to those folks, so I can have a real plan that actually addresses this. We are going to cap property taxes when you buy your home, and you're going to know when you buy the home over your entire lifetime what the property tax bill is going to look like on that home. Then you'll actually, when you buy a home, you'll know what it's going to really cost you, and what that will do is it will force growth to pay for itself. There are other impact fees. There are other funding sources to accomplish this, but it's not right that we're going to levy on the backs of people who already live here for all the people that want to move here. And I get why people are moving here. I'm sure many of them are in the room right now. Just so you know, 54% of people in Idaho are not from Idaho. More people in the state are not from the state than that were born here. That's pretty incredible. But nonetheless, I'm sure for you, even if you've moved here last year, you probably don't want to continue financing the growth for the people who want to come here. They got to pay for their own way, and that's going to protect our senior citizens, but a lot of people who can't afford housing in the communities in which they work. I think it's incredibly important. The last piece I'll mention is we have to tackle corruption in government. I could go on for hours on this issue. Look, it does not get prosecuted in the state of Idaho. For my friends who are from other states, you probably recall hearing in the news about some politician going to prison for X, Y, or Z, and it doesn't happen in this state. Law enforcement does not have the tools to investigate financial crimes, and they don't have the mandate. I want to give that to them. So I'm advocating, and the Constitution would allow for a temporary department with a 2-year maximum lifespan for government accountability and transparency, where we're going to give law enforcement the mandate to investigate allegations of corruption and prosecute it when they find it. We have a swamp to drain here. We have to stop thinking we're going to drain the deepest swamp in Washington, D.C. when we can't drain the swamp in our own backyard. Let's fix Idaho first, and then we can talk about how we drain the swamp in D.C. I have a plan to do that, but you actually, surprise, surprise, you actually have to, investigate it. It doesn't happen. For my friends who have friends or are in law enforcement, ask them, what tools do you guys have to investigate financial crimes and the like? And I've even given real-life examples, like in the city of Boise, where the husband of the mayor's campaign manager gets art grants for tens of thousands of dollars to create the most garbage art you've ever seen for the city. Look, you think this is, come on. Our current governor gets the CEO of the largest healthcare system in the state, which I hope you guys have some questions on healthcare. That's a really important one right now. But the CEO of the largest healthcare system in the state personally donates to our current governor's reelection campaign. And then 3 weeks later, 21 days later, he injects millions of our tax dollars into that same healthcare system. It's not even illegal, by the way. That's how business is done. They're very comfortable with it. Nobody even calls them on it, even though I put it out there and sent out press releases. Apparently, no journalists at any of your typical news outlets found it even remotely interesting to discuss it. You'll never hear about that stuff in the media. And I'll continue to bring forward these examples, but it ought to be addressed. We certainly deserve deserve that much. But I would challenge you on how you elect a governor with what the proper role of a governor is. Please understand, look to the Latin root of that word governor. I was saying Greek root, and then I had a Latin teacher in our meeting this last Saturday, and so she corrected me. Hey, but it's good. Teachers are showing up. This is great. It's the Latin root of the word governor. It means a person who steers the ship. Please understand why that's important. The governor isn't running the day-to-day operations of all the state agencies, of which there are over 200 governmental bodies, now 20 departments and over 180 agencies in our state government. The governor doesn't run the day-to-day operations. We have, not all, but for the most part, very qualified, capable, intelligent people that are going to continue to make sure that when you turn the faucet, water comes out of it, right? That are going to continue to make sure that the roads get plowed. The governor is not the one in charge of that stuff. But what the governor does is the governor determines direction. We have to make a radical course correction. That's what my candidacy represents. And I hope this is something that you find unique and different, because it is. And I really want to open myself up, though, to your guys' questions and let the conversation go where it may. So what questions do you guys have?
Are you on the ballot?
Say again?
Are you on the ballot?
It doesn't get printed for a couple more months.
But you will be on it?
Yeah, May 17th is the election. That's a Republican primary. So you have to be a registered Republican to vote in the Republican primary in Idaho. It's a closed primary.
Okay, but your name will be...
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And out of your 100,000 that you need, how far along are you?
Well, we won't know till Election Day.
You've got to have some sort of projections, but, I mean, how many followers do you have on Facebook? Are you... Is this a moonshot, or is it, you know...
Well, I'll tell you, I mean, we've raised over $250,000 from everyday Idahoans. I've had, since this campaign started, over 15 million media impressions. We have a volunteer team, over 500 volunteers in the state. We have a statewide team. But I would encourage you, look at my campaign and look at everyone else's campaign, and you tell me who's rocking it right now, right?
Yeah, I haven't heard a commercial. I mean, I'm just sitting here. This is the first I've really heard of you, other than from my wife, but I'm definitely going to vote. I wouldn't have voted in the election if I didn't come tonight.
Oh, wow, yeah.
So
yeah.
I definitely, and I'll pull some other people on board.
It is mostly word of mouth. Yeah. No, there's no doubt about it. It has to be word of mouth. But outside of the Treasure Valley, I actually get decent media coverage on television, in their papers and the like. Here in the Treasure Valley, we've gotten some minor television coverage. I mean, I call them the Idaho Hatesmen. They won't even use my name. They literally will not use my name. They call me either an extremist candidate or a first-time gubernatorial candidate. Think about that. They won't say my name. And you have to understand why. They know I come armed with the truth. And they do not want people to hear my message, because they know when people understand what is going on in this state, they're going to want something very different. Yeah, so we're going to continue to push hard, but I'll say the success of this campaign is not just going to be based on what I do. Look, Laurel told you, I work 16 to 18 hours a day, 6 days a week. I mean, we go at a relentless pace, and I'm traveling the whole state. There's no more hours in the day that I can put in, and I got a young family at home. You got to understand, it's heartbreaking when you have a young daughter and you come back and she's different when you get home, right? Because she's growing so fast right now. So I'm grateful she could be here with us, but my commitment to you, I will continue to push as hard as I can, but I need a lot of help. So I appreciate you sharing that with your friends and family. And for coming tonight. Yeah. And thanks for dragging them.
I do have one from Facebook Live.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
The question was, what changes would you make to the Board of Education?
This is a good question. The governor really can drive immediate change to education in Idaho, both K through 12 and at higher ed. You have to see the governor appoints 7 out of 8 members of the State Board of Education. 7 out of 8. I have committed that on day one as governor, I would demand that every member of the State Board of Education sign a declaration stating that they affirm President Trump's 1776 Commission report and its findings and will uphold those concepts in history and civics in Idaho classrooms. And anyone who refuses, I'd ask for their immediate resignation. This is how we drive change to Education Idaho. And I also really think that we should probably fire Marlene Tromp, the president of BSU. So I really look forward to that. Heck, honestly, I think she is such an evil and wicked lady. I honestly think that I could privately fundraise to just pay out the rest of her contract. I don't even think it would cost the taxpayers any money. I think heck, we could do a GoFundMe, the Fire Marlene Tromp GoFundMe, and everyone would kick in. Let's get her out of here. She came from one of the most liberal universities in the country. And isn't that interesting? Our State Board of Education said, hey, let's bring one of the most liberal university professors to Boise State University. You think this is an accident? This is a methodical and systematic plan. And I didn't mention what happened in Colorado, but it just came to my mind, and I think it's worth discussing. Think of Colorado. This is where I came here from. It was Colorado was more Republican than Idaho before Idaho became so Republican. It was a reliably Republican, Rocky Mountain, cowboy culture state. Sound familiar, right? And in 4 election cycles, that's 8 years, Colorado went from being a Republican trifecta to a Democrat trifecta. Here's what you need to understand, and this should concern you. There were over 100,000 more registered Republicans in Colorado than registered Democrats when it flipped. That does not happen without a methodical and systematic plan. That blueprint is being carried out in Idaho today. And the same names that were appearing on campaign finance reports in Colorado are now appearing on campaign finance reports in Idaho. Think about it. In a Republican primary in Idaho, our current governor got a donation from a Hollywood leftist billionaire. What is a Hollywood leftist billionaire interested in Idaho's Republican primary? This is somebody who raised millions of dollars to get Hillary Clinton elected. Why are they interested in the Idaho Republican primary? The answer is clear. Do you know one of the biggest financial backers of our current governor in the last Republican primary? It was, surprise, surprise, the Idaho Education Association, whose national counterpart, or parent organization, the National Education Association, has a legal defense fund to pursue anybody who opposes critical race theory. In fact, the Idaho Education Association on their very website, you want to know what they're teaching our teachers in this state right now? They say, and I think this is, word for word, it says, Idaho classrooms should serve the interests of all students, but primarily should serve lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender students. This is on their, go to the website, please, I encourage you. I'd love nothing more than for you to go home and look into it for yourself. For people watching on Facebook, pull up another browser. Look it up right now. Go to the Idaho Education Association and see what are they teaching the teachers. And they're teaching them, the title of the course is Teaching the Rainbow. And they say that, children are recognizing gender identity and sexual orientation earlier. They're encouraging teachers to start having sexual conversations with these kids. This has gotten completely out of control. I am telling you right now, if you do not get rid of this current governor, at the end of his next term, we will be electing a Democrat. I'm telling you right now, mark my words, in 3 years, he has grown the state government 32%. That is unfathomable. You can't even imagine. That is massive growth to government. 32%. If you give this man 4 more years, it's over. You will live in the next Colorado. And Denver used to be the model for a Rocky Mountain state, and now Denver celebrates the drug culture and rampant homelessness. We can't do this anymore. No, thank you. I think that's a great question. What other questions here? Yeah.
What impact will the redistricting have on the May 17th primary?
Well, thankfully, I'm in a statewide race, so I don't have to worry as much about redistricting. But yes, the whole state is being redistricted right now. It's all up in the air. It's being argued in the courts and the like. It will affect your legislators. It probably won't affect your congressmen. We're just going to have to see what the courts do in this. But it is important for the state legislature.
But it won't affect the government.
No, because it's a statewide race, yeah. Yeah, that's a good question. What other questions do you guys have?
Another question.
Yeah.
So in the past 2 years, the Idaho house price has surged a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So this have positive side, also the negative side. The negative side is the young generations is hard to buy a house, especially in Boise.
Mm-hmm.
So what do I do for that?
Did you say health or housing?
House price.
Housing, yeah. There's a few things that are contributing to this. The first one we have to understand, we have a disjointed labor market because of what the government has been doing for a long time. And I wish I could give a super quick and concise answer for this, but we have to actually be honest and treat the problem for what it is, get to the root of it instead of, the hacking at the leaves and all the political band-aids. A big part of what's happening with the housing price crisis is that we have problems in our labor force. And we've created them. We've taken young people out of the labor force and encumbered them with massive debt and have encouraged every young person, for how long now, to every one of them get an office job. We have to bring back vocational training. These are incredible jobs. Young people are missing the most incredible opportunities. You wouldn't believe. Some of my clients that were just rolling in the money were plumbers. Believe it or not, the plumbers, it's just gone through the roof. They're doing incredibly well. There's not enough plumbers out there. You guys know who've tried to build a house and the like. So if we had more vocational training, we would have more people in the labor force for longer because they could get that training young, they could get out, and with no student debt, they could get a high-paying job. These are great jobs. We have to start encouraging vocational training. I'm sorry, the measure of the success of our education system is not, let me repeat, is not the go-on rate. The go-on rate is how they measure success in education. The whole idea is, what percentage of our students went to college? Stop it. Holy smokes, blue-collar jobs are good, honorable jobs. I don't know how we grew into this elitist culture where we're suddenly too good to get our hands dirty. I am very grateful I was a roughneck. Having the opportunity to work on drilling rigs changed my life. You took somebody who was in the depths of poverty and suddenly gave them a 6-figure-a-year income. That was life-changing for me. And does it hurt me to know how to swing a sledgehammer? And know the things that I know and seen the places I've seen? Of course not. I want more young people to have those experiences. If we have vocational training, you will have a stronger labor force that can build more homes, which is supply, right? The price of anything is a function of the demand for that, which is the people moving into the state, and the supply of that good, which the labor force provides. I could, of course, talk about materials as well, which we have vast natural resources in the state, and we're starting to get in the habit of just letting them burn up every year, right, instead of wisely managing our forests, right? How did California do in managing its forests, right? The whole idea, oh no, you guys, we can't manage the forest. We can't, actually extract renewable resources. We just got to let it burn down every year. Oh, fantastic. Don't you love leftist logic? And you saw the price of lumber and what it did. We have incredible resources in this state. But I'll tell you, there's another part of the equation. This is where I'll make some of you queasy. I'm okay. We got to start having some of these uncomfortable conversations. Folks, it is not compassionate to have law enforcement officers, teachers, and nurses who cannot afford housing in the communities in which they work, but that we're going to guarantee housing to everybody the United Nations wants to send to Idaho. I am advocating that we ban refugee resettlement in the state of Idaho. Thank you. And look, my family met the every definition you could give for a political refugee. My family met that, but these aren't like the political refugees. You have to understand the United Nations drives the whole process. And I call it radical, or the papers, they call it extremist, but I have this crazy notion that our government ought to exist for us, to protect us, for our benefit. Folks, I'm sorry, we should try to help where we can, and we have the very spirit and character of this nation as a giving nation. We should always maintain that. That's a beautiful thing that is to be honored. And we should have a path for people to come to this country. What we should not do is say we're going to have these international organizations who don't have our best interests at heart ship anyone they want here. And just so you know, that's our agreement with the United Nations. We guarantee them housing. Does anyone in here have guaranteed housing? How does this work? It's obscene. It's craziness. And I will tell you, Idaho, and this is part of the blueprint, just so you know, this is absolutely part of the blueprint. Idaho takes in more refugees than 8 states combined. On a per capita basis, we're the 3rd highest in the nation. You want to know the largest voting bloc in the United Nations? It's the Organization for Islamic Cooperation, whose member nations actively persecute Christians in those countries. For my friends who have been involved internationally and done, Laurel's done international rescue stuff and the like, look, the Christians do not go to the United Nations when they need help. They don't. They go to private organizations because the UN persecutes them too. So is it any surprise to you who they send here? Shouldn't be any surprise. And these refugee resettlement agencies, they insulate them. And they build all this government infrastructure around these communities so that those people never assimilate. It's like when my mother came here, she said, we speak English. And my mother spoke very broken English for several years. But we spoke English. I only know English, by the way. I don't even know another language. Think of that, right? My brother, right, speaks more than one language. I don't, right? They came here, they spoke English. We don't do that anymore. We build all these government services in so that you never have to learn English, and you can be provided all those services the government provides and have access to all the welfare programs and the like. I think you get the picture. This has grown to reckless proportions. It's unacceptable. The governor can end it. I have committed to doing so.
I have one follow-up that kind of goes along with this question.
Okay.
It was just what would you just do to stop Biden's illegal immigration dumping that's occurring here in Idaho?
So we had in the audience last night a pilot who shared that. He had seen with his own eyes, he's seen how illegals are getting on these planes and how they have these contacts that help them with the tickets, and they get on with trash bags. And they're getting spread out all over the country. I think DeSantis really revealed this to the world. I'll tell you what the governor could do. This is just maybe called having fun, but reality is we gotta have a hard line. Could you imagine if the governor picked up the phone and called the director of the Boise airport and said, hey, if you let a single illegal immigrant through your airport, we're going to go after your funding like you've never seen before. You think that there'd be a change of behavior pretty quick? You're telling me that they can't figure out who's legal and not there? Oh, they'll figure it out real quick. Follow the money. There's no incentive to actually address it. In fact, it's going to come up in this session. There's going to be a big push to give illegal immigrants in the state of Idaho driver's licenses. You want to talk about election integrity issues? Go ahead and just start giving driver's licenses to everybody who requests one. You're going to push that here in this session. And I encourage you, for my friends who might not yet be on board with me or this campaign, look into some of the other conservative candidates. Look into their voting records when it comes to driver's licenses for illegal immigrants. You'll find when election season comes around, everybody's really conservative. History paints a different picture. It's unacceptable. But that's a good follow-up question. What other questions do you guys have here? All right. That makes it easy. Yeah.
Hi, sir. My name's Dave. So I'm currently employed by a federal agency.
Yeah.
And due to the vaccine mandates, and I guess I expect further ones to come based on how the president's been speaking to producers and things like that.
Yeah.
I feel as though, so I'm a Navy veteran, but I feel like it really saddens me to say it, but I feel as though I'm going to have to preemptively leave serving my country in this capacity and
Yeah.
have to go somewhere else. And so I personally appreciate the current governor's efforts to sue the federal government, regarding some certain mandates and things. I was wondering where you stand on the state of Idaho and, vaccine mandates and those type of things as they
Yeah.
apply to our state. And if you could also, related to that, talk about your thoughts on private entities within the state, having mandates for their own companies.
Yeah. So for those who are joining us over live, he's asking about vaccine mandates for the federal government and how corporations in the state of Idaho are also mandating those vaccines. This is a really important issue for my family. You have to understand my wife is a nurse. She works at St. Luke's. And we've seen how this has affected our family. And so, look, I'm not a medical professional. I'm not here to tell you guys how to make medical decisions. I think you ought to just make your own, right? But for our own reasons, my wife and I, we've chosen to not get the vaccine. And my wife just had a baby, right, at St. Luke's, gets home from having a baby. Think of this, breastfeeding a newborn baby. And during that time, it's, I'm not a medical professional, but it's my understanding that you don't try experimental medical treatments when you're breastfeeding. I hear that's like, medicine 101. And she gets a notification when she comes home, gets an email, and they say, hey, if you don't get an experimental medical treatment, we're going to fire you. It's like, oh, thanks. She just got home with the baby, right? Thankfully, she's on a religious exemption for now, but St. Luke's is actually going through their different exemptions and starting to get rid of people for the different exemptions. I imagine her exemption will be under attack here soon, but the people who had the medical exemptions, they're doing away with that. They're saying, no, get it or you're fired. They're just phasing it out, which we always knew they were going to do with the exemptions anyway. Corporate coercion on personal medical decisions is really distasteful for me. I think that we have to attack this really aggressively. So, no, we can't allow it. It has to absolutely be banned in the state of Idaho. And I know some Republicans who think, but Ed, we believe in the free markets and businesses shouldn't be regulated. And yeah, absolutely, we want to have the free markets and we want those businesses to have the freedom to operate. But at some point, I also don't believe that you should be able as a business to hire 6-year-olds and send them to mine coal. Right? That seems pretty outrageous. We used to do that in this country. I don't think anyone in this room thinks 6-year-olds or 8-year-olds should go down into mine shafts. So we do regulate businesses because we expect businesses to honor their employees and protect them. You can't just have your employees in lead chambers for years on end and think that that's acceptable. You have a duty to your employees. I'm asking, and I don't think it's too much, that you should have a duty to respect your employees' personal medical decisions. It's unacceptable. And so, yeah, I'm very comfortable not allowing corporate coercion. And I'll tell you, I'm actually going to go one step further. As governor, I would demand, and Idaho code allows for this, I would demand the Attorney General to investigate the healthcare systems for their perverse incentive structure. And here's the one question I want to know from this investigation. With the hundreds of millions of dollars in federal and state tax dollars they received from us to address a pandemic, here's the question. What did they do with money? What did they do with it? You're going to get to the truth very quickly. And I think with people on that thread, a whole lot is going to come out. We're going to find out that this pandemic was used to pad the books for a lot of healthcare organizations across this country and in Idaho. It's a betrayal to our communities, and it needs to be immediately addressed. Now, you also asked on the federal side how how we combat these vaccine mandates. And I wish there was more the governor could do, but the reality is those federal bureaucracies are under the purview of the president. And I can't, at one hand, say I honor this whole notion of federalism, where we all have our different lanes to be in, and in another say, hey, you know, we're gonna start tangling in the federal agencies. I want state agencies to run state agencies. I want federal agencies to run federal agencies. So this is a real problem, and I think it's a betrayal to our veterans, our great veterans. And I'm sorry that you're having to go through this and make that decision. But I will say, there are probably business owners in the room tonight. I want you to actually think what kind of employee that you want. And what I hope is you want the kind of employee that has such deeply held beliefs that they would lose their career over what they believe in. And I want you to find those people and hire them. You have a duty to the community. So I appreciate what you're willing to do. The cost is great, and I wish there was more that we could do for people in those federal agencies, for people in the National Guard, and which is a federal, you know, we like to think of it as a state organization. It's not. That's federal. And for our veterans. But I think if we first can win the fight here in Idaho and show the rest of the country how it's done, then we can begin to make changes at the federal level. But that is a great question. Usually when Laurel is standing next to me, that means I have to stop talking. I will tell you after and answer your questions and connect with you guys. I want Laurel to share with you guys